You want to come here? Hey, bud.
Okay, and welcome to our second author chat. And our 9 o'clock chat is with YA author Miranda Kenneally, who recently released the novel Coming Up for Air. So welcome, Miranda, and thank you very much for chatting with us tonight. We're very, very appreciative to have you. I'll just ask if you want to start off with a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a good Friday night. This is kind of late for me. I'm kind of old, at this point, and I don't normally stay awake this late. So hopefully I'm still engaging and can answer your questions okay. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Miranda Kenneally. I write kind of romantic comedies for teens, especially teens who play sports. And if you don't play sports, that's okay too. I think that people who don't play sports enjoy my books too. My first book was called Catching Jordan, which is about a girl football player who is the star of her school football team, and she's their quarterback, and she's a great player. And then one day this new guy comes to school and he wants her position. And she thinks he's pretty cute. So and then drama happens. So that's my first book, Catching Jordan. And my new book that just came out is called Coming Up for Air. It's a girl about a girl named Maggie who wants to be an Olympic swimmer. And she spends all her time swimming and doesn't have much time for a life. And this book is about how she decides she wants to try to have a romantic life. And maybe her best friend, Levi, is the one, maybe she can have a romantic life with him. And it's really, this book is really important to me because it's all about how people move at different speeds in their relationships. It doesn't matter, if, well, let me go back. If everyone's doing, physical stuff with someone else, it's okay if you're not. And when I was in high school, I, had trouble getting a boyfriend. And I thought there was something wrong with me. And, and it became like this thing where if I don't have a boyfriend, like everyone's talking about me and they're making fun of me, when in all reality, there were plenty of people who didn't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And we all move at different speeds. And, these kinds of things happen when they're supposed to. So this was a really important book for me to write. That's Coming Up for Air. I have a first question here. Oh, I should also tell you guys, we have an adult cat named Brady who will probably show up at some point, but we just got a brand new foster kitten who is 7 weeks old. His name's Ryan, and he's running around all over the place, and it's very distracting. But maybe he'll come in the picture a little bit later. He's really cute. So my first question is, when did I start writing? I actually started writing when I was probably 8 years old. I wrote really horrible short stories. Sometimes I would want to stay inside at recess so I could write short stories that were really terrible. And they would be things about, like families with 10 sets of triplets and a bunch of twins and, just tons of kids, not understanding how terrible that would probably be. And I would write lots of stories about dogs and cats and illustrate them. And then in junior and high school, I started writing a lot of really bad poetry, stuff like my heart is, a black hole or something. It was really, truly terrible. But it wasn't until I got to college and I had a creative writing teacher who told me to really start writing what I know. And I went to school in Washington, D.C., and he said, you need to write about where you grew up. You need to write what you know. So I started writing about Tennessee and sports and friends and families and things like that. And that's whenever I really, found myself as a writer. So that's me. Are there next questions? Oh, okay. What's the most thrilling thing to you about writing teen romance? Well, kissing scenes. I don't know. It's just really fun to write that want, the feeling of I really want to be with this person, and I really like to show that wanting feeling. But then the first thing about writing is that you show what your main character wants and what's really important to them, and then you throw something in their path that makes it really difficult for them to get to that one place, or to be with that person. You have to show them overcoming whatever it is that is so horrible for them. So like with my book Catching Jordan, she wants to be on the football team and be quarterback as much as possible, or that's what the position she wants to be. But a new guy comes to town and he wants her position, and she thinks he's cute. So how is she going to overcome these things and actually, get the guy? And that's what's really fun to me about writing romance and teen love is, the want, and then, blowing things up. Let's see. I have a next question, which is, what is so compelling about reading about first love? Oh, again, I think it just goes back to that feeling of want and the wanting to belong, and also the hope. I think those are all, really fun emotions that you can really feel on a visceral level, especially if the book is done right. And I love feeling that way. I love reading romance and just going through the kind of roller coaster of emotions that comes with it. What is your writing process like? Well, it's really kind of weird. So every time I sit down to write a book, it ends up being not what I started out with at all. I don't know how I started writing about sports. I'm actually not that good at sports. A couple of examples are when I was 5 years old, I was watching the Olympic Games, and my dad and I was really into the Olympic swimming and diving. And my dad said, why don't you do a back dive, off of the dining room table? I had been jumping off the dining room table, just normal jumps. And he said, why don't you do a back dive? Because, that's what dads do. They cause trouble. And so I jumped off the table and hit my head on the side of the table, and I got this cut. I cut my eye open. So I had to go get stitches. So I wasn't a very good Olympic diver. And, I've had lots of weird sports related injuries. Like just a couple years ago, I fell while running and managed to break my arm really bad to the point where I had to have it surgically repaired. I mean, I just fell while running. So I'm really not the best at sports. I'm really not coordinated at all, to tell you the truth. One more emergency room story, and then I'll stop. When I was in college, I needed a new computer, and for whatever reason, my parents would not buy me a new computer, but they bought me the parts for the computer to build one. And so I was building my own computer on a Saturday night in college, because that's so cool. Such a cool thing for me to be doing. I sliced my finger open on the motherboard of the computer, and I had to go to the hospital. And the hospital was, the doctors there were like, every other teenager here is, drunk or, having their stomach pumped, and you've injured yourself on a computer. So part of my writing process is actually, since I'm not very athletic, is going out and doing the research. So for instance, with coming up for air, like I know a lot about swimming, but not enough to write this book about a girl who wants to go to the Olympics. And so I went to watch some swim practices, and the kids thought I was a college recruiter, which once they found out I was not a college recruiter, they started goofing off and acting up. And I got so much material just kind of sitting there watching them goof off. And I think that going and just observing whatever it is you want to write is how you write the book and make it feel really real. So I have this other book which is about horse racing. It's called Racing Savannah, and to write this I actually went and watched horse races, and I went and did tours of horse farms and met horses and looked in their stalls and watched their their trainers working them out, and I watched the stable hands cleaning out their stalls and stuff like that, and then even going to the racetrack and betting on the races and losing. So those are the kind of things that I do as part of my writing process. And I just sit down and start writing, and I usually end up having to rewrite the book over and over again just to get it right. When I get writer's block, I like to go out for Mexican food, and I say that that's really true for any author. If you're having problems writing, don't spend a lot of time sitting in front of the computer. Get up and go do something. Go for a walk. Go do some activity, because that's how you spur ideas. Another big part of my writing process is that, say I'm writing about football, I will just go up and ask a random person, like, hey, what do you think of football? And it could be anyone. It could be like a 4-year-old kid. It could be like a 90-year-old man. You want to get these different opinions. So with Catching Jordan, I actually got the first line of the book from just asking an 80-year-old woman I know, like, what do you think of football? And she said, football was invented so people wouldn't notice summer ending. So I made that the first line of my book. And I think that that's a really important thing to do. So that's part of my writing process, is just, going out and experiencing whatever it is that I'm writing about. Oh, there went the kitten. Let's see. The next question is, there are audio versions of my books. Did you have any involvement in the production, and do you listen to the recordings? Yes. Well, I think there are 5 or 6. I have 8 books, and I think that 6 of them are in audiobooks. And I think that for each one, they picked out an artist, and then they called me, or they had me listen to the voice of that person and say whether I thought that they were right, and I would say yes, and generally I thought that they were spot on. In terms of listening to them, that is a weird experience to hear your book read aloud by someone else, because they might exaggerate certain lines that in your mind you never exaggerated. In my new book, Coming Up for Air, the main character does the main character or one of the guy characters doesn't sound like the guy at all, like the way she makes his voice sound. So it's a little jarring in a way, but I'm really honored that I have audiobooks, and I think it's really cool. So I love that. Oh, here's another question. What's the most challenging aspect of writing? I would honestly say it's probably the first draft. It is you can get the thing about writing a book is it's not like riding a bike to me. Like I could get on a bike, after months and months and just get on it and go, and it's fine. I know how to ride the bike. With writing a book, I feel like I learn over and over and over again. Every single book, I feel like I have to teach myself. Um, and you think it gets easier, but I don't think it does. It's just really hard. Um, one thing that they say before you start writing a book is like you have to know what your main character wants. What does your main character want? What will it take to get that thing? What stands in their way? And how hard and what is your main character going to do about it? How are they going to get to that goal, whatever it is they want? And sometimes I'll find myself writing a first draft, and all of a sudden, I'm 100 pages in, and I have no idea what my main character wants or like where the story's even going, and I have to start all over again. That's happened 2 or 3 times, and so now, I every single time I have to remember, oh, what does my main character want? But then I'll get so focused on that, I forget things like, um, you know, don't, my main character needs to react, not just accepts things that happen to them. And that's really important to me as like a teen, writing about teen girls and strong female characters. They need to take action. They need to be in control of their lives. And sometimes I'll realize like 100 pages into a book, everything's just happening to the main character. She's not actually in control of her destiny. She needs to make things happen. And so I'll have to start all over again. So it's very tough. But I do have this cheat book I use. It's called 20 Master Plots. Oh, hello, kitten. It's called 20 Master Plots. And basically it has like checklists for different kinds of stories, like an underdog plot or an adventure plot or a quest plot, revenge, escape, transformation, love, forbidden love, and discovery. And they have all these different kinds of plots, and I'll sometimes use this like after I've written a draft. I'll go through and say, oh, I'm writing a quest. Have I gotten all the main plot points? And it's really helpful for me. So it kind of feels like my cheat guide. So there's that. Are you planning on writing more books for the 100 Oaks series? Actually, no. I made a decision with coming up for air that I thought it should be the last one. And the reason for that was a couple of reasons. I was really proud of this book, and it was kind of the book I wanted to give to people about my thoughts on feminism. Like, this is my strong girl book. And I didn't, and I wasn't sure if I had 2 more books in me about this same town. And I wanted to go out on kind of a really high note. But I'm definitely going to keep writing. I just thought that this was like the arc of all of my characters. All of my books are kind of related. So I felt like I wrapped up the stories the way I wanted to. So I made that decision. And some days I'm kind of like, did I make the right decision? But ultimately, I think I did. And, if there's ever a story I feel like I need to tell within 100 Oaks, I can always write a short story or something like that. And I haven't ruled that out. I definitely get emails from people saying, but what happened to so-and-so? And I think, well, I should write something about them. And maybe I will. We'll see. Okay. New questions. What is your least favorite word? Oh, that's easy. It's the word robust. I don't know why I hate the word robust. I don't even know what it means, but people people use it way too much for my liking. What scares me? A lot. Sinkholes. Let's see. Oh gosh, big cat is here. I'm really terrified of like of getting caught in natural disasters, I guess. I was in an earthquake a couple years ago and I did not react very well. I work for the State Department during the day, and it was my job to make sure that everybody got out of my office. And it was my job to make sure that all the safes with all the classified information were locked. And it was, I was supposed to be the last one out the door on a safe. So the earthquake happens. I thought we were being bombed. And so I just bolted. I like ran out of the office. I ran out of the building. I abandoned everyone. And I ran outside and I saw this Army major I know. And I just kind of jumped on him and said, "Save me." And yeah, the next day they took away that job. So a lot scares me. I'm not a very brave person, even though I keep taking the Harry Potter. I keep getting Gryffindor, but I don't really understand why, because I'm not very brave. I would say I'm probably more of a Slytherin. Let's see. Next question. If you had to choose a career other than what you currently do, what would you do? Well, I mean, are we talking like, you know, I actually have the skills to do it? I'd probably be a pop star or something, or, you know, I would definitely be an international pop star in dance and sing and make tons of money and tour around the world. I think that would be great. Or I would, you know, be an NBA player or something. Don't they make like tons of money? That sounds great. I once someone told me that like in the UK they gave a survey of like what is your what is you know your most the profession you'd most want to be if you could be anything. And in the UK they all picked author, which I think is great. And here I am. I'm like, I'd be an NBA player. So anyway, let's see. What is your favorite place to travel to? Well, I love the beach. I'm a big beach fan. This last summer, I did a wonderful trip. I called it my Outlander Monarchy Harry Potter Tour de France trip. We went to Scotland, and you know we saw a bunch of the Harry Potter and Outlander sites or sets, and we traveled all around. And we went to London, where you know I got to my monarchy fix in. I'm really into royalty and stuff. I don't know why. I love that sort of thing. And then we went to the Tour de France, which I love watching biking. It's like my favorite sport to watch is cycling on TV. I don't know why, but I love watching cycling. So we actually went to the Tour de France, and I got to on a couple of the team buses, and I got to talk to some of the the riders, the ones that and I got to talk to some of the owners and of the teams, and people thought I was writing a book, but I really wasn't. I was just really interested in the cycling, but it was amazing. I had a really good time with that. I'm really into. The other thing is going to the beach. I could literally just spend a week on the beach with a fruity drink and tons of books. So, okay. Next question. What do you like to do in your downtime? Read. I read so much. People often ask me, like, how is it you write and you read and you work a job? Well, the thing is I don't actually sleep very well. Pretty much every night I wake up in the middle of the night and can't fall back asleep. So I just read. I read books. I'm not, you wouldn't want to read anything I've written in the middle of the night. I think I've written in all of my writing, I have written one scene in the middle of the night. I woke up on vacation, actually, and I had an idea for a scene from my book, Breathe Annie Breathe, which is about a girl running a marathon in honor of her boyfriend who died. And I had an idea for one scene there. So, but what else do I do in my downtime? I like to go to the gym. I like to run. I'm an okay runner. I've done, a marathon and a half marathon, but I'm not very fast. I can finish, but I finish way behind everybody else. I go to the gym and teenagers lap me on the track and all the time. And one time I was running a half marathon and I thought I was doing pretty well. And then like this really old lady, she must have been like 80 something years old, comes up and she says, "Oh, I have bronchitis. So I'm not running very well today." And then she passes me. So that just shows what kind of a runner I am. I like going out to eat and I like going to the movies. Let's see. We go to the movies pretty frequently. We just saw Baby Driver, which was really good, and we saw Dunkirk. And other things I liked this year. I liked the Guardians of the Galaxy too. I love all the Avengers movies. I loved Wonder Woman. Oh my gosh, I saw it twice in the theater. And the scene where she's like running across the field, defending against the machine gun, I was just bawling in the theater. It was so good. I loved it. Okay, so those are the things I do in my spare time. Let's see. What have you read in the last year? I brought, let's see. One of my favorite books of the past year was Trish Doller's In a Perfect World, which is about a girl who goes to Egypt to live with her mom. And her mom is a doctor and she's going to work in Egypt. And so the girl basically goes to Egypt and has to learn how to, kind of learns about the culture. And it's just a really, really beautiful book. I recently read Eliza and Her Monsters, which was wonderful. It's about a girl who's kind of geeky in real life, but online she's this huge graphic artist or graphic novelist, and no one knows it's her, and she just has millions and millions of fans. So she's great online, but she's like not, the best offline. And how does she deal with that? It reminded me a lot of Fangirl. I liked Eliza and Her Monsters a lot. And I recently liked Royal Bastards, which is about just a bunch of royal, like it's a fantasy novel about the royal bastards who end up on this kind of adventure, and it was so funny and so good. So really liked those. Okay, let's see. What advice would you give to your teenage self? Well, I think it was a little bit of what I was saying earlier, like, it would probably be to be nicer to myself, and to tell myself that not everyone was looking at me. No one was, we have these ideas that everyone is focused on what we're doing when really they're really only focused on what they're doing. So you should be true to yourself and not what everybody else thinks you should be. That's really important. And if I could go back in time, I would have said that, and to just like let relationships and friendships happen in their own time, and not to force it. I spent way too much time like pining over guys who didn't like me back. And why did I do that? There had to have been other guys besides, the ones that I just had to have. I would tell myself that. But on the other hand, I'm pretty happy with where I've ended up in my life. So, maybe I did everything right. Maybe I needed those lessons to get where I am today. Um, all right, next question. Um, who is your favorite fictional character? Um, well, Hermione is the obvious one, because we all know that Harry would not have defeated who without Hermione. But the other one is Katza from Graceling, which I hope you all have read Graceling. It's about a girl who lives in a land. It's a fantasy, and everyone. Some people have graces. You could have like a cooking grace where you're really good at cooking, or you can have a gymnastics grace. You're really good at gymnastics. Well, Katza has a grace of killing people, and she has a really hard time with that. She doesn't think she's a good person. She thinks she's a thug, and the book is all about how she learns how to use her grace for good. And it's like ultimate feminism and girl power, this book. I love Graceling. I like to read it at least once a year, and it's there are definitely books I reread and I think, oh my gosh, why did I like this? A few years ago, this is not my kind of book, but every year it feels amazing. Okay. Is there an author you would freak out about meeting in real life? Oh, geez. Let's see. Well, probably J.K. Rowling. I mean, obviously, I guess that's probably the one. We're on to our final question. Wow, that went by really fast, considering I guess I rambled for quite a while there. Final question. Do you have any advice for aspiring writers? My number one piece of advice for writers is to read. Read everything you can get your hands on. Read out of your genre, read in your genre. Read books that are bad, read books that are good. With the bad books, you want to read them to know, well, what is wrong with this plot? What's wrong with these characters? Why don't I like this? Why doesn't it work for me? Read the really good books. What do you love about it? How can you use the lessons from these stories to write your own books? I tell people that I did not truly learn how to write until I started reading Sarah Dessen books. Like, I knew what I wanted to write about, but I couldn't do it. Like, I wrote really, really bad stories, and then one day I picked up a Sarah Dessen book, and it was like my eyes opened up, and I said, "Oh, this is what I want to write, and this is how I do it." And so I'm really grateful to Sarah Dessen, because she truly did teach me how to write. The other thing is for aspiring writers is to be as specific as possible with your word choice. That's something I struggle with to this day. It's is this word exactly what it is I'm trying to say, and and that really helps you with your showing and you're not telling. And use your words to put the scene on the paper as if you're watching a movie. Sometimes I find myself in a first draft writing and telling I'm just telling what happened, not actually showing it happening on the page, and then I have to go back and fix it. So sometimes I have to remind myself, like, oh, you need to show this like a movie, not like just telling what happened. And that's where word choice gets really important. So I think that was my last question. It's been really great chatting with you guys. It is always kind of weird. I'm just talking to to a blank screen. So yeah, it's
Thank
hard to
you
get
so
me out.
much, Miranda. We really appreciate having you.
Yeah, sure. See ya.